Welcome to Around the NFL, presented by Verizon.
The Around the NFL podcast cannot stop the rise of Bridget.
Oh, no.
From the Chris Wesley podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus. I got Marc Sessler, Gregg Rosenthal here. Lot of buzz about Bridget. Some people were triggered by the robot. Relax. Some people seem to really enjoy it. But again, the biggest concern is that she seems to be growing beyond the control of her creator, and that's a big issue.
Yeah, it's
Capital
like a
B.
2001 Space Odyssey here in our real life. But you spent a lot of time telling us how much effort and work and toil you put into creating a better version, a 2.0 version of Bridget, and she's spun out of control. She's power hungry, an unlikable bot. So not a great job. Well, do you find her likable? She's calling you out on some things.
I mean, she might be my future boss, so I just think she's doing what she can. And I think, look, we've done this show 10 years. This is a nice little plot pivot. Our new overlord.
Yeah, I was going to say boss seems kind. I feel like she might be like our all-controlling master at some point.
It's not a world I want to be a part of.
Championship weekend. Oh, I have right here. Not a shameless plug at all. Number 1 through 4 in the power rankings as we enter Super Bowl, championship weekend.
Still got the Lions in there?
Chance to get to the Super Bowl. We had to say goodbye to the Lions. Justin, I have in my hands the power rankings order. Number 1, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Interesting.
Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. And am I bringing that up because I want to direct you to NFL.com/power rankings? Sure, I'll do that. But also, I want to point out, you could put those 4 in any order, and you're just as right. And you could say, well, Kansas City with Mahomes' injury. Pat's practicing in full right now on top of everything else.
Issue, right?
It's going to be great.
This combination of teams, like, it seems like, oh, wow, this seems like a good 4-pack of teams. There's historically never been like a foursome of teams who are this good and on this much of a winning streak. Between the Chiefs have won 7 straight, the Bengals have won 10 straight, and the 49ers have won 12 straight. Like, if you combine the 4 teams' record over the last 3 months, it's better than any Final Four. It's also the first conference championship with point spreads under 3 in both games since the 70s.
70s?
So it just doesn't. There hasn't even been one.
Isn't that surprising?
It is surprising, except we got no upsets, which maybe made last week less dramatic on some level. But we've got the 4 best teams, and this is the first occurrence, 49ers, Eagles, of a top-ranked offense and defense is clashing each other since top 5, since the Vikings and Cowboys in 1975. So it is an aberration what's happening right now, and a great one.
And there was this idea of there's no, at some point in the season, people would be like, there's no great teams. It's like, this seems like a year actually there were great teams, and then there was a lot of flotsam and jetsam around the same, wanting to be one of these teams. And the Bills would say, we were one of those teams. Well, yeah, not anymore. Sorry, Bills fans.
Oh.
Yeah, well, there's no, right now, dynasty in the NFL.
No.
But I feel like it's not unusual. By the time you get to the Final Four, all the teams that are still alive are playing so well that they do feel like superpower teams.
Well, this is our 3 of the last 4 from last year, though, too. It's not like they're out of nowhere.
I mean, the Niners have been to the title game 3 of 4 years. The Chiefs get there year after year. So they're not dynasties in the same way that we'd think of the old 90s Cowboys and 80s Parcells Giants. But add a couple Super Bowls and you're there.
I mean, you forgot, the best dynasty.
Well, I don't think I don't think that anyone's forgotten about the New England Patriots.
We're living in the past.
No, we're
living in the past. It is crazy to think, though, this 5 straight championship games started Patrick Mahomes with a tight overtime defeat to that Patriots. I mean, that really, at the time, everyone was saying, this could be the changing of the guard, and Tom wouldn't let go for one more game, but it really was the changing of the guard in the AFC.
Yes, and, as we're going to get into the AFC game second, but you do feel a little bit of pressure on Mahomes because he has been like the guy in the last 5 years. He has the one title. I think Mahomes, go get over the hump again. Get back to the game. Win another one. Because Gregg, you've been on record on the show. I think you've said that. Is he the best ever?
I think he's the best player I've ever seen. Yeah, or covered. So yeah.
I'm not pushing back on that even. I'm just saying time to start stacking some of these Lombardis.
Well, because the team is there. Right. You don't like it's depressing to watch the quarterback do it early in the career and then not do it again, Aaron Rodgers-esque. Get a second here.
It's a team sport, Dan. I mean, when Tom Brady played his absolute best, didn't win any titles. I saw this tweet from Nate Tice showing the greatest offenses of the last 20 years. I forget what the context was. Maybe the Chiefs were on this list or something. And all of Brady's best offenses were in the period where he didn't win any titles. 2010, 11, 9, 7, 12. And it's a team game.
It's a team game.
Bad defenses.
That's a great call, Gregg. I never thought of it that way until you said it.
I'm just saying.
But
it wouldn't make me feel any different about Mahomes if they lose this game.
Well, it doesn't mean I think less of him, but it is an incredible.
It's 27, too, to point out.
It's an incredible achievement to get to this state of the season 5 years in a row, the Final Four. The odds are really with you at that point. If he goes through his 5 years and this one you come up empty, it's like, oh, just one title and you got to the Final Four 5 times in a row.
Like
that would be frustrating and disappointing.
It wouldn't change the way you think about Mahomes, and I get it from like the player angle, and yet I feel differently about Aaron Rodgers.
Right,
for never getting
I
there.
guess
They were on the. It wasn't like he was toiling like Archie Manning for a bad team. They were on the doorstep over.
I guess my point is
do it.
He's at the age where Peyton Manning was still 2 years away from winning a playoff game or making a Super Bowl. So it's like, it doesn't change too much.
But what if 5 years from now he's not won one or 6 or 7? We're talking about this season, but
unfinished business. Why don't we start with the AFC Championship game? Because one other thing, Greggy, to factor in. If he is indeed the greatest you've ever seen, and you're not young anymore.
I only count, though, the 20 years, since we've covered the sport, right? Since I've covered the sport. Because, before that, I'm, watching NFL primetime, and you have these memories of yourself as a kid. It's tough to really compare.
How last season ended still stuns me, because I have an incredible amount of respect for Patrick Mahomes. I think he is... I'm with you. He is certainly in the top 3 quarterbacks I've ever seen at this stage. And yet, what happened against the Cincinnati Bengals last year in Arrowhead, an absolute meltdown in the second half. It felt like a stain on his resume. So here we go. Here's his chance to get revenge against the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead again. But things feel different now, Greggy. Because Cincinnati is no longer the plucky upstart. They're the team that, A, has been awesome for about 3 straight months now. B, has the quarterback that I think everyone is starting to realize might be ready to take over the entire league for a decade. And C, have owned the Chiefs for about a year plus in head-to-head matchups, including, obviously, last year's title game. And Mahomes has a bad ankle.
It's all great points. I think the Bengals are favored for a reason. I think they're a little bit better of a team overall than the Chiefs. And then you throw in Mahomes' ankle injury. It's the ultimate test of, what have they learned since that game a year ago? Can Mahomes be patient enough on offense? Can they create big plays with this new group? Can they not, fall apart and be able to respond to Lou Anamoruno's adjustments during the games? And I think with the injury, it's so interesting because I think of Mahomes and Reed going into this game thinking, okay, maybe he's not going to have his total mobility. Even if he's feeling good this week, is it kind of like an artist?
Okay.
That
just could go either direction.
That has some of their greatest work, potentially, when you have to put limitations on that art. Sometimes you make up a structure in sort of rules in that, okay, we can only do this. We're not going to rely on this, but we can rely on him getting rid of the ball quickly. We can rely on a great offensive line, which is better at run blocking, a really good running game, which is 3rd in the league in DVOA since that last Bengals game ran well against them, screens, which they've been great at, and still Mahomes using what he can do since he first got to the AFC Championship, winning before the snap, and will they kind of whittle down who they are, and maybe that'll make that like a more memorable performance. I think it's possible.
I think it's very possible. I mean, number one, people at practice, the Chiefs themselves, he's practicing in full, and he doesn't seem to be limited or looking like the way he did against Jacksonville, where he was literally hobbling around. So he just heals differently than other players and other quarterbacks too, which is great. But Andy Reid also said
different.
Andy Reid said, like, we've got 300-plus plays for Patrick Mahomes to operate inside the tackle box, that there's a lot they can do. And I think they're built in a way with guys like Isaiah Pacheco right now and Jerick McKinnon and Juju Smith-Schuster where you can succeed in the quick game against a defense that, with Lou Anarumo, like Mahomes said, every single time these last 3 matchups when we've dealt with the Bengals, Anarumo, Captain Lou, has completely changed what they've done on defense. There's been nothing to take from game to game. And Captain Lou is a guy that at halftime is making massive adjustments. And I think that they've kept because if you look at that first half against the Bengals in that AFC Championship game, Mahomes was like 18 for 21 and looking great.
They were up 21-3 with 2 minutes to go in the first half.
But then the Bengals went and did what they do. And like Mahomes struggled mightily in the second half. So I think the X factor is the creativity of Cincinnati's defense, a defense that's been awesome in the red zone of late. They're taking the ball away, and they really don't have a massive weakness. And I think that you gotta like this idea that Joe Thuney is back in this game, which he wasn't when they played in December. That's big against the Bengals pass rush that could cause havoc if Mahomes is more limited than we think and stuck inside the tackle box more.
Around the NFL is brought to you by Verizon, the network America relies on.
I think we said it earlier in the week. You don't really know what's going to happen with Mahomes until he's actually playing on the field, sprinting out of the pocket to evade the rush at full speed, sliding down, being dragged on a tackle out of bounds. It is certainly within the realm of possibilities that he ends up on the sideline and Chad Henne plays extended snaps. And then how do you feel about the Chiefs? This was a good stat.
Not very good.
No, that's what I mean. It's very, like, we can all, like, and this is how the Chiefs are looking at things, or publicly facing on this. Oh, Pat's okay. I keep on calling him Pat. That was his dad. Mahomes is okay. He's going to play. He's practicing in full. We're ready to roll. Well, we shall see. According to Next Gen Stats, and we all know part of Mahomes' greatness is his ability to make plays off platform, to scramble, keep his eyes upfield, those crazy throws that only Mahomes can make. He completed just 1 of 2 throws outside the pocket in the second half against Jacksonville. He led the NFL with 117 throws from outside the pocket during the regular season. Can he be that guy? Because that's what separates him from so many people, in my opinion. I'm sure he's a great pocket passer as well. Yeah. He's Patrick Mahomes. But what makes him otherworldly is that ability to do it all.
Yeah, he had the most touchdowns inside the tackle box, too. But to your point about the outside the box throws, he had the second most attempts on the run. It's a big part of his game. And his mobility became a big part of his game this year, too. So it's like, if
his
you
scrambling is a part of his game.
Absolutely. I think he elevated that this season. Was the one thing that was maybe the best aspect of him improving this year. When I look at Mahomes, though, I just kind of feel like when you pair him with Andy Reid, when Andy Reid's saying we've got hundreds of options and things we can do, and you're built a little differently this year, and I think that guys like Jerick McKinnon are set up to help you if you're limited in where you can throw the ball from.
I think that's right, and we'll get to the Bengals offense, but I am curious how Anarumo,
just say Captain Lou, it's easier.
Captain
Anarumo attacks him, because I think that is what's made this Bengals defense so good. I think they're the better defense in this game. They change what they do, snap to snap, drive to drive, quarter to quarter, game to game. They feel very Belichickian in their way, in that they have great continuity, guys who really know what their roles are, and they can really shapeshift. Now, will he send more pressure? Not something he does a ton, because Mahomes is stuck there in the pocket. Yeah, I think he can win from the pocket, but can't he even move well inside the pocket? He did okay last week, and the signs are good that he could do it this week, where he did move around a little bit. But do you send a little more heat to try to get the ball out quicker? Do the Chiefs really lean into that running game? Do the thing that, like, everyone always is asking Andy Reid to do more? Because they ran the ball incredibly well the first time they played the Bengals. They ran the ball incredibly well last week. They were 12 for 96 running the ball in the first half of that game. Like I mentioned before, third in rushing efficiency since week 13. They've got these guys up front who are maulers, and I think it's a really key matchup. You mentioned Tooney. You have Creed Humphrey, who's been an all-pro now in his second year. It's a very good line. Do they lean on that? It's a big matchup between like DJ Reader, who's been good for the Bengals, and Tupu, who's been pretty good up front. Like, can you get that win? Because I do worry a little bit if he's standing back there that Trey Hendrickson has a mismatch against Andrew Wiley, can get some heat quickly, and I don't think that's going to be good.
And only Dak Prescott has more interceptions than Patrick Mahomes under pressure. And Mahomes' numbers tumble under pressure. So a guy like Trey Hendrickson is massive in this matchup. But I do think Joe Tooney, who is about as good as you find along any offensive line, getting him back is a huge difference. But Isaiah Pacheco's trending in a way where, like, he had his best game last week. It's like these guys are growing. Guys in their offense, like Kadarius Toney and Pacheco, are, like, becoming a bigger factor and more of a thing. And I think, people out there that study this Chiefs offense think they're going to run a ton of 12 personnel this week to help get 2 tight ends in there, protect Mahomes, a lot of quick throws, and try to counter that pass rush.
Yeah, and well, that's when Captain Lou comes in, because then you can – and there's no – remember, they have done an amazing job adjusting post-Tyreek, but now you don't have that guy necessarily that you could just, blow the top off a defense that is creeping up to the line and playing everything short. It changes what they can do, and at some point, I think you're going to have to see Mahomes challenge them downfield if that's how they're going to play the game to try to protect him in the pass rush. On the Cincinnati side of the ball, when they are on offense and they are opening up lanes for Joe Mixon, it's over. Because when you add that element to their game, as they did against the Bills, there's just no way to stop them, because Burrow is so great and so locked in, and his receivers – obviously with Chase and Higgins and Boyd, but like Hayden Hurst is a really good fit with this team. If you are mixing in the run as they did, and Mixon had 105 yards on 20 carries in that game, it's a wrap. So it's like the Chiefs need to find a way to make the Bengals one-dimensional and put them in a situation where, and this is where they're a tough matchup, because it's like, I think the key to the Chiefs winning is make Burrow pass the ball 50 times. But then Joe Burrow's passing the ball 50 times, and bad things can happen there. Right. But it's that balance that makes the Cincinnati offense unstoppable.
I mean, and when they played last time, and I take as much from this past game as the AFC Championship game, because the Chiefs are a completely different team in a lot of ways. But Burrow threw the ball 31 times with 6 incompletions. They didn't have Joe Mixon. That was the Samaje Perine day, where he had 150 total yards, caught 6 passes, ran the ball really well, and that was one of the games.
They kind of dared Perine to beat them, and he did.
And he did. It kind of showed me, like, this Bengals team, like, even when they're missing guys, they're as resilient as any team in the AFC, and they find guys behind the guys to, like, come up and produce. And that happened in that game. And to me, it's like, I think Burrow, like, I take away 2 things from last week. Like, you have a totally banged-up line that we talked about all last Thursday preview show, as it might spell doom for Burrow. Instead, he had, like, the lowest pressure rate he's had in a game all year, because this line somehow played out of its mind. It was insane. And secondly, Burrow's in the middle of a snowstorm in Buffalo, and it seemed like it had zero emotional effect on him. I don't think he cares if he's playing in Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, or the Arctic. He's like, I'm Joe Burrow, I'm going to go do what I do. And they seem kind of Teflon to the environment they're in.
I totally agree. I think both of these offenses are so much better. It's an offensive league than the defenses, that there's not going to be a lot of stops in this game, assuming, Mahomes is healthy enough. And I don't have that much worry about it. I'm with you, Dan. You never know what's going to happen. But ultimately, I'm expecting there to be very few stops in this game. Maybe you'll have some turnovers, but I think it'll be like these last 3 games, which – Bengals have found a way to make all the big plays that has to give them great confidence, but they all came down to the last second. They were all 3-point games. The Chiefs probably would have taken the lead there if Kelsey hadn't forced the fumble, and those are the types of or fumbled the ball late in that game. With Burrow, like, they were determined to take away the big play when they played in Week 13. The Chiefs were. It was the Chiefs who hit all the big plays down the field, and it didn't matter. The Bengals didn't have one big play, literally nothing 20 yards down the field in that entire game, and yet they could run the ball so well against them. I think the running games for both teams are key. Burrow ran the ball more in that game than any game this year. He ran it well last week as well. He had some design runs. Like, I think his legs are absolutely crucial. And when it came down to it, they were just kind of like, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are huge. you're putting Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed and these smaller cornerbacks like, oh, yeah, you guys are really tough. Like, try to stop us on our, like, in-breaking routes, like these slants and these little over routes on third down. Just try to stop us because they weren't even that open, and they just kept hitting him over and over. That's kind of what stands out to me with this matchup is, like, ultimately Higgins and Chase are just bigger than those Chiefs dudes, and they don't have to be open. And you know Joe Burrow is not afraid to make those throws.
So, and on that offensive line in front of Burrow, Jonah Williams not practicing, so he's probably out again. Alex Kappa did not practice on Wednesday. I'm not sure about Thursday. That seems like a same situation. So they're going to run back most likely the line that's exceeded so much in the divisional playoffs, but this is now a different opponent. We talked about it a lot, about Buffalo and how much they missed Von Miller and didn't really have a big dog to go get the quarterback. Well, there is a dog on the Chiefs. His name is Chris Jones. You got Frank Clark there. Karlaftis is there. And it's just like, that's another part of this. Like the assumption now, I would say it would be a little bit misleading to just assume now the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is now set and fine.
Agree.
Better defense, 55 sacks for the Chiefs this year, which was tied for second in the league. They're not out of the woods yet in terms of their ability to protect the quarterback and run the football.
Chris Jones was not a factor in that Week 13 game. I think that could completely change here. And I think you're right, because it's like, if anything, we're surprised that the line dominated. Buffalo just felt like they were at the end of the line, end of the road, and they were completely dominated by Cincinnati's offensive line, which has to be the most surprising thing that's happened in the playoffs. Do you just assume that's happening 2 weeks in a row? I don't think so. I mean, but it's a big game for Steve Spagnuolo, too, to, like, create chaos and confusion for Joe Burrow.
It's Spag season, though. I never doubt Spags in January.
It wasn't
Spag season.
It wasn't last year, though.
No, and it wasn't in the Bills.
Joe Burrow.
Right, and it wasn't against the Bills either, to be fair. The Chiefs' defense does have a remarkable ability to look meh for 2.5 months and then play their best football at the end of the season. And the numbers all say that's happened again this season, that they were pretty bad for a while, and in the last month and a half, they've been like a top 10-ish, good enough defense. Clark and Karlaftis and Dunlap, their edge rushers, I think you're right to point them out, are huge in this game. They did not do anything last week. That was a little concerning. I would say they were a little bit of a weakness against Jacksonville. Chris Jones did his normal thing. You mentioned how they didn't do anything the last time they played the Bengals. So I think they have to show up because pressure, just like sacks is a quarterback stats, pressure can be too. I think Joe Burrow was good getting rid of the ball quickly and moving in the pocket to avoid pressure.
All right, let's pick this game.
I don't know.
Mark.
I'm going Bengals. I'm going Bengals. I feel like I always do this, but I think this game is an overtime thriller that comes down to a field goal. I'm going to say 30 to 27.
I feel like 80% of your predictions are overtime predictions.
Well, that's why I tagged it with that. But Bengals Chiefs feels like it's just heading in that direction. I'd be really surprised if this was anything more than like 3 or 4 point difference between the teams.
Well, it's really crazy.
What's the score?
I had 30 to 27 in overtime, which means the Bengals kicked a field goal in overtime.
It was the Chiefs started this game or this line as the favorite.
Can I just one more correction to Mark?
Yeah.
The Chiefs could have won the overtime coin toss, kicked a field goal, then the Bengals get the ball back and score a touchdown.
You're right, but not in my reality. The narrative I've created, it's a field goal. You're right,
just
though. Mathematically, that
has that like ever happened? By the way,
it doesn't feel
I don't
like
think
how
that's
it
ever
normally
happened.
goes.
I want that to happen. That
Just different, patterns. The world. Go ahead, Greg.
So the Chiefs started as the favorite. Everyone kind of jumped on the Bengals because of the ankle thing, and the Bengals have been great. And the Bengals became the favorite. And now, late in the week, with this like positive Mahomes news, enough people have jumped back where the Chiefs are now a 1 point
fishy,
favorite.
maybe.
Group thing.
Something. Well, or the desert has more power than people realize. Just money's flying around this game.
It's got a lot of power.
Well, what does that even mean?
I don't know. Just some of the, the way things are reported, the way things are amplified. They're very powerful. These people in the desert.
Oh yeah, you're right. Ultimately, like if the number,
they want more money involved.
Right. If the number's under 3, it's kind of just like you're picking the winner. Essentially, it'd be pretty weird to get underneath the number. You're picking the winner, and now as the week goes on, I'm like affected by that. Seeing Mahomes out there and just like seeing him run around, you're like, okay, put that to the side. But this Bengals team, we've been on a journey with them throughout last postseason, week after week. Mark and I picking the Bengals. Dan pushing back against us.
Well, not exactly.
I mean, pretty much. Pushing back
strong, but-
Close to
Go ahead.
exact.
Even in the Super Bowl. You
well,
know?
that was to win a lock title, which I
But you didn't
did.
even make the choice. You
If
let
you guys-
Marc make his choice. You absconded.
Did I
from that
really
choice.
do that?
Yeah.
Wow, what a move by me.
That was
That is awesome.
devilish.
That's a showman
why,
move.
Why are we down in this corner?
I don't
It's
know.
back where
Hanzus
Dan
shut
is
up.
just
He brought me up.
praising himself and some like it's got to
Oh,
happen.
no,
3
I
or
took
4
a shot.
times
He-
show.
Wait, with
deserves-
everything on the line, I said I'm standing out of the way. Marc picked
Yes,
the champion,
because you had been on a losing
and I'll pick
streak.
the other one. That's
Yes.
unbelievable showmanship.
Yeah, but you were getting you had one of the biggest fades down the stretch of all time.
I don't know.
think
The
you were-
trophy is
please shut up?
in,
Yeah, but
in my.
you were hesitant.
Somebody
you were,
say
you were hesitant to make
it's
the
a
tip,
La
the pick.
Ravio Magnifico. Win a
Sure,
trophy without even making a choice.
Unbelievable.
In your world, let it be that.
This
Unbelievable.
this Bengals team though, with the Wesleyan brothers rooting them on, with a guy who just doesn't seem to know how to lose or play poorly in the biggest moments in Joe Burrow, and yes, with a better coaching staff, because I think Lou Anarumo, Captain Lou, is the difference here, and I am taking the Bengals to win this game.
Score.
Is he gonna?
Pew, pew. Ow! He's like, I better change my polo. I don't know what score I put online. I try to keep it consistent. 30-27, I believe was. I think it will be plenty of points, plenty of entertainment.
Overtime?
It's the late game. It's not overtime, and I picked the Bengals.
But
I
you
am
didn't
not locking up the Bengals because I just want to watch this game. I know this is like a silly way to choose between the two, but I don't want the stress of it. I just want to watch
I mean,
a great game. I think the Bengals will win, but I don't feel confident about anyone winning this weekend.
This is one of the reasons I jumped out of the Giants lock
Yeah.
last week because I wanted Gregg to really sweat it out one more week. He
Yeah.
might take it home.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm very much in a defensive posture in terms of the lock battle.
Once again, yeah, you could show some chutzpah though,
And what?
and lock up the Bengals here.
Wait, I think he's going to lock off against
No,
you.
I have
though.
to lock up. I have
Yeah.
to play it the right way, Greg.
Well, you could just have integrity and pick the team that you
don't hit me
want
with
to
the
win.
integrity
What,
thing.
what are we
Just
doing here?
Calm down.
Because you were
Cincinnati-
telling me earlier in the week you have the Bengals first in power rankings. I just remember
Yes.
that. Chiefs fourth.
The Bengals are my pick in this game.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't think the Bengals lose again this season. I don't think Joe Burrow loses until like next September or October. So I will pick them to win this game.
You thought they'd lose last week.
Not really. I said 31-30. Yes, I did.
Greg is like a little dog, like biting at your ankle as you're just attempting to just do your thing.
Can you just shut up? Cincinnati, not only going to win this game, I think they'll win it resoundingly.
Like
think going away.
Almost sounds
right.
like it would be lock-worthy.
34-17.
And if you truly believed in it.
Will you ever
34-17.
stop talking, Greg?
Yeah,
so you
shut up.
you just view the Chiefs as like the Bills a little bit. They can't match up, and they've come just to the end of their journey. It's going to be.
I was hoping. I was really. Yeah. I was.
I love this. I think that's.
I would have
a
locked the
decisive
Chiefs if you locked the
prognostication.
Bengals because I want to play it the way that's the most direct way to play the game. But we'll lock the other game, and I'll take the Niners probably, and that'll be it. What's up?
Somebody's locking this game.
Yeah,
I think we
Gravedigger.
know. I think we know.
Wait, who is even talking right now?
Hello, heroes. If I look a little somber right now, it's because we were officially eliminated last week.
Ooh.
It's okay. We conducted ourselves with honor and integrity throughout. We took tough games throughout. Unlike the guy who's in the lead, who takes the 6.5-point favorite every week,
Bite the ankles.
or we get in the playoffs and he takes the 10-point favorite every week.
Oh, Greggy.
That's okay.
I mean,
It's
Dan
well
took
within
a
the rules
bigger favorite.
that he created. I can look in the mirror or this video right now and say, hey, I'm proud of what we did. I'm wondering if that guy can do the same.
Oof.
Onward and upward. It's not going to be any secret who we take this week. I said the Bengals were going to ride Joe Burrow's arm all the way to the Super Bowl, and they're going to do it again. All the talks about Mahomes' ankle, it's not going to matter, healthy or not. The Bengals take care of business. Joe Burrow puts up some good numbers. They win this game relatively easily. I say 10 points. Lock that up.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, it was why I was tempted to lock up the Bengals, just for the look in the mirror factor, that I knew Dan didn't believe in it, and I would just force him into a terrible situation where you're showing who you are. But that seems like a silly way to play this game to make you feel.
I feel like you're a little bit on tilt with the locks right now. You're just all over the place on things.
Hey, you came out of that with like a 2-minute-long self-commentary. What about what Nick did? Like,
oh, well, Nick's thing is ridiculous.
But I love Nick needling you, to be honest, because it reminds me so much of Chris Wessling, because the first time I ever met Nick and the brothers, they were like, just go get Chris and Nick to debate like LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, and like an hour later they were shouting at each other like with beers in their hands. It was like Nick's the same way. It's not letting you get away with it, Greg.
There you go. So yes, I'm with you on that, Nick. Let's go Bengals to the Super Bowl. Welcome back. Before we get to the NFC title game tilt, little halftime. Let's get caught up on the news around the league. Let's start with, a hire involving a team I know. The New York Jets end their 2-week search for an offensive coordinator, hiring former Denver Broncos coach. How did that go? Nathaniel Hackett on Thursday. Hackett, obviously, before the Broncos inferno, was with Green Bay and had a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. So this only now fuels the growing kind of fire around Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Interesting. Hackett, Marc, replaces Mike LaFleur, who got canned after the Jets went in the tank at the end of the season. And now Hackett has a chance to kind of quickly build his career back up, or he's in a pretty vulnerable position here, too, because the Jets coaching staff is in a very vulnerable place now entering 2023. I
really like the hire, and this is the kind of thing that I'm going to log off of Twitter, because there's so many lines of humor around Nathaniel Hackett at this point.
Now imagine my Twitter mentions right now.
No, I know. I'm not going through the same, issues that you are, Dan. I understand that, but I'm trying to tell you I think it's a good hire for the Jets. And I think of what Nathaniel Hackett did with that surging Jaguars team that went deep into the playoffs half a decade ago, and the work he did in Green Bay, and the fact that when you go back to the earlier roots of him being recruited by Denver, there was a lot of racket and noise around maybe Aaron Rodgers going there. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is very pro Nathaniel Hackett, and the Jets basically, Saleh said today, we are getting a veteran quarterback. Now, fine, maybe it's Derek Carr.
That was an interesting quote. I guess they have to. But
come on, y'all. Russell Wilson. Holy
right.
Very exciting.
You won't be going for Russell Wilson, but I mean, it connects the dots maybe. It's a selling point for Aaron Rodgers at least, because it would be a familiar offense for him. It would be a familiar everything. And so I kind of think that has to be a little part of the swing for the fences aspect of this. But beyond that, I think he's a good play caller. He just was overhired, Peter principle-wise.
I guess, is he, though? The concern I would have is he's from the same offensive tree as Matt LaFleur and, doesn't have a better track record necessarily. Didn't call plays in Green Bay, called it in Buffalo and Jacksonville. I would say those offenses were mediocre on average.
Yeah, but he maximized that Jacksonville offense in a really creative way.
But he was there 3 years. They had a great year running the ball when they made it, and they were terrible the other 2 years. Not just average, terrible. And they were okay in Buffalo. They were okay. They were in the middle of the pack. So he doesn't bring you an immediate idea that he has a schematic advantage. I think what he brings you is everyone who's ever worked with Nathaniel Hackett loves the dude, says he's great at leading guys and building the relationships and all that, but there's no reason to think that he's going to be better than Matt LaFleur. Hopefully he's just the same.
Right? He needs better quarterback luck to start with to be better than anyone.
Right.
I think what you've said in the past, Greg, about head coaches, and there's 5 or 6 really good ones, and then 5 or 6 really terrible ones, and then there's a middle. I think you could say probably the same thing about play callers.
Probably, yeah.
And that's where I come down on this hire. Now, what Marc was alluding to, immediately there's this urge. And I don't even get mad at it, because I understand if I wasn't a Jets fan, they're a fun team to dunk on just because they're kind of a comedy of errors and a folly squad for 50 years or whatever. So it's this guy that got fired by the Broncos and was completely incompetent. Now they hire him in a desperate attempt to get Aaron Rodgers. I get it. Have fun with it. Go run off and play. My feeling on it is Hackett is in that big grouping of OCs that he will look as good as the quarterback is at the end of the day. And if the Jets do not bring in a competent quarterback, he will look bad and probably will get fired with everyone else at the end of the year. And if the Jets bring in a good quarterback or even a Hall of Fame level quarterback, he will probably look really good, and it will seem like a good hire, and the Jets will be in the playoffs next year. So this story is not finished for me. I need to see who the QB is. Do I think we're getting more and more smoke around this Aaron Rodgers thing? Yeah, I really think this is a real possibility. I talked about it a little bit in the last show that this felt like something Woody Johnson would do. He did something exactly like this 15 years ago with Brett Favre, which, by the way, went better than a lot of people remember.
Started out really well.
Before he got injured, he was 8-3. They were really in good position in the AFC, and then he got hurt and tried to play through it to keep his consecutive game streak going, and then the team tanked, and then he went to Minnesota, and he was an MVP-level guy again. I think this is a no-doubter of a move the Jets should make at this point. As long as they don't mortgage their future for Aaron Rodgers, it's a tricky balance. But I do like the idea of Rodgers and Hackett together with the rest of this roster.
By the way, that is big news out of New York. We have bigger news.
No!
Breaking news.
Let's hear it.
Out of Carolina, where the Panthers are hiring former Colts coach Frank Reich as their new head coach. Didn't take him long.
Good hire.
Yeah.
I like it. I liked Frank Reich of all the coaches who just lost their job in this cycle.
I love real breaking news on the show.
Getting a second
it was perfect
chance.
Timing. You know what happens to us? Sometimes we log off. We're like 8 minutes into driving home, and then bang, this happens, and it's like, what do we do then, Greg?
I think he's one of those coaches as a play caller who makes a difference. I don't know if he's changing the world as a head coach. He's not going to just make them magical. But I believe he is an excellent play caller. With the right pieces around him, you can have a top 10 offense with Frank Reich
That's
kind of
the guy.
building the guy.
So,
building the group.
and because the Jet search was endless, and Frank Reich was somebody like, I would love if they got Frank Reich, but Frank Reich deserved another head coach job, and he gets one with Carolina. Tough luck for Steve Wilkes, who did a nice job there. He'll catch on somewhere, maybe not as a head coach at first, but that's a big step for the Panthers, who have had major issues getting their offense back online ever since Cam Newton's shoulder went. I don't know what they're going to do at QB. I assume they're going to go through the draft.
They have a high draft pick.
Maybe they will go down the road of trying to bring in
they will absolutely get
a
veteran, because Sam Darnold's a free agent.
Right.
They need to get someone.
They need to make, and we know they have a pretty good defense too. So it's just like, what is the path that they take with Reich? Might be a good move to take a quarterback high. Maybe they target a Garoppolo type, and they could improve a lot in a division that's obviously wide open.
Reich reminds me of Hackett in the sense that, like, he sunk out of there because he didn't have a quarterback either, and you've got to find one in Carolina. They went after Matthew Stafford, didn't happen. They investigated the idea of getting Deshaun Watson, didn't happen. Tepper, the owner, absolutely is he seeking someone. I don't know if you want it. I don't know where you're gonna be with the rookie class by the time they pick, but they have leverage on that front, and I just don't love the veteran class outside Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know if you sign. I know I'm lower on Derek Carr than other people, but like Frank Reich needs someone that can take a little of the heat off him, because
there's not going to be like a magical name that pops up.
There
that
isn't.
You're just like, that's it. That's the great guy. It's going to be a Jimmy G or a Derek Carr or a Geno if he ever left, or someone in the draft. But they chose to pass on Justin Fields and Mac Jones a couple of years ago, and they're not as high, obviously, anymore, right? What are they drafting? Like, they would be in the mix for like the third quarterback drafted potentially, but
or
that's
they can
about
make
it.
a move up to get him.
Yeah,
they're at 9.
And maybe they'll end up doing what the Jets probably should have done a couple of years ago and kept Sam Darnold and then just draft a guy high and then put the rookie in after a few weeks or half a season or a year. That's another way they could play it. As long as you give Reich the rope to build the program here, I think they'll be in good hands.
I'd love to see them keep Wilkes as defensive coordinator if he doesn't get a head coaching job. I know you always come in
he
and
won't want to.
I know, but you just clean the whole staff out. But it's like,
my guess is just he really felt like he wanted that job. I think he'll want a fresh start over someone that
didn't pick him, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Jets, by the way, had the same record as Carolina. There was 6 teams at 7-10, and the Jets picked last out of them because they had the hardest schedule. It's one of the smallest points that bothers me the most. I think it should be flipped. If you had the hardest strength of schedule, the Jets should be the team picking 8th. That's a big difference. 8th and 13th.
8th and 13th is
what is
crazy.
even the argument for doing it that way? That
well, the idea is like
if
you
they're better.
The Jets are better than the Falcons because they played a harder schedule. But something.
I don't like stuff like this in
bothers me.
sports where like it catches all of us mentally. We're like, wait, that doesn't make sense, but it still rages
Well,
on.
I mean, I'm a Jets fan, and it does kind of make sense. The idea of the draft is to help replenish the worst teams and get them back on their feet. I know you guys are bigger Falcons fans than me, but the Falcons kind of stink. Whereas the Jets, everyone's talking about the same thing. They're a quarterback and a couple of things away from being a contender. I get it. I just wish it was the other way around in this case specifically.
I'd go like ping pong ball lottery in that move.
Yeah, I like some lottery.
Turn it into like a 12-week long event.
Let's do ping pong balls. In other news, let's quickly hit this before we get to the NFC title game. The award finalists have been announced for all those AP awards. I always found that kind of strange. It's like the Associated Press's end of season awards, as opposed to just a standalone NFL event, but it's essentially a partnership.
Yeah.
And it's recognized by the league as the awards. So we'll start with the most valuable player. Here are the finalists for most valuable player. And Greggy will tell you all about it because he is super plugged in on this type of highly esoteric football.
It's not that
stuff.
esoteric. We spent a whole offseason episode talking
Just
MVP.
How did they change the voting? There are 5 finalists:
Yes,
Josh
yes.
Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes. Got a lot of vinegar, pea and vinegar in you today, Greggy. I like it.
Maybe I don't know why. Maybe it was the call I got right before we started taping, that the day after Walker, my son, gleefully told me that his friend had faked being sick, that suddenly he wakes up with a cough today and then leaves school in the middle of school. I think he's learning from his friend. I don't like it.
I hate when the kids have sentience.
Or he's actually ill, and then
the
he's
worst.
gotten you ill, and now you're sitting 2 feet a space between us and you.
He's probably faking it.
I think he's faking it.
Well, that's a good. I think that's as a kid.
I guess it's better than him being sick.
But it's a good skill to learn. I
he's
think
smart.
it's a good thing to learn.
It's a good thing to learn. This year, finally, they're ranking top 5 MVP candidates, which I think is cool.
So if you have a vote, you rank 1 through 5, and
it's not all AP writers. It's a wide swath of different writers from different companies. A lot of local writers, but also national writers. I know.
Why is it called AP then?
Well, they organize it. They send it out. I guess
Doesn't this feel like something we need to clean up
just
just
feels
a little
like
bit?
it probably won't be the case 5 years from now.
Streamline this a little bit.
Our friend Mina Kimes, who was on this show,
She got a vote
before the season. She has a vote now, which is so cool. She ranks
Cool.
the top 5, and then it turned into. Did you say the names?
I
You
did.
did.
Allen,
okay.
Burrow, Hurts, Jefferson, Mahomes.
It's exactly who you would expect. Although Jefferson being 5th, I feel like is nice. That's why I like the ranked voting, that Jefferson even
Sure.
gets on this list. It's cool.
Should be on it.
I think
I would have had him 3rd.
I would say who really likes this ultimately is the union, and it's good for contract negotiations for Justin Jefferson to go to the Vikings and be like, oh, I was an MVP finalist.
Yeah.
The problem is
Go after
we
yourself.
know who won the award because they already released the AP All-Pro teams. It's the exact same people voting for the award. And Patrick Mahomes got 49 out of 50 votes at quarterback. It's very safe to say he is the 2023
So
MVP.
by
But you
that
still
logic,
should
we
tune
can
in.
kind of roll through
Yeah, I'm
some
sure-
of these other
I'm
ones,
sure the
right?
people at
The other
NFL
ones are a little. Yeah, you're right. Defensive Player of the Year should be both.
I'm sure the
So
people
it's
at
both-
NFL
it's-
Honors are thrilled, Greg, that you just basically pulled the entire.
I mean,
that
the
entire
information's
event
all out
into
there
the- into the
publicly. I'm
gutter.
just connecting
See,
dots.
I said Greg would have this esoteric knowledge, and he's decoding the whole thing for us. I like it. It gives us a little step on the competition. Although, yes, NFL Honors, which will be Thursday, February 9th, in the Super Bowl city of Glendale or the Phoenix area.
Really, only one award we know for sure.
They're not
It's
gonna be happy
MVP.
that we're spoiling this,
The rest
basically.
of them, you can't really figure out.
Let's just keep spoiling. The AP Defensive Player of the Year is Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, Micah Parsons.
We know it won't be Parsons because Bosa was
second
over
team.
Parsons in All-Pro. But Chris Jones, you never know. But I
It's
think
not
we
going to be
know.
Chris Jones.
I think we know.
Do they vote like the same week as they vote?
It's the exact same ballot.
Oh.
You just send it all in together.
This is
Yeah.
That is Nick
It's
Bosa,
been
or
cracked.
I'm totally
It's
stunned.
Nick. It's gonna
I
be
mean,
Nick
give me a
Bosa.
break here.
Parsons, I think, will get actually a decent amount of votes, but he's not because he
The-
did it in the All-Pro too. But he won't get it.
The AP Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill, Dolphins wide receiver, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes. And if Patrick Mahomes was the 49 of 50 ballots, the first team All-Pro quarterback, obviously he'll win this too, right?
Well, this is why I hate this award. No, because a lot of people split it and try to give something to someone else.
But
so I
it's
kind of
like-
think it's going to be Jefferson.
It's Director of the Year and Film of the Year. They find a way to give everyone a little
Yeah, it's like
love.
we gave Mahomes MVP. Let's give Jefferson.
I mean, I feel like we've had this conversation
100
before.
times,
Just call it
yeah.
the non-quarterback offensive
Right,
player
just
of the year.
take the
put
QBs
yank these
out.
quarterbacks out of here. Right.
And then if that's the case, it's Jefferson or Hill, and I'll go Jefferson.
It could even be Hurts. They might. Who knows? Who knows?
AP Offensive Rookie of the Year, Brock Purdy. Interesting, Brock Purdy. He only started 6 games.
You know what? I think the most
5
absurd
games?
thing out there right now is people saying that he shouldn't. He is my Rookie of the Year without any question. He's playing the toughest position in all of sports. He's undefeated. He's totally thrived.
The playoffs
He's
don't
going-
count. They voted before.
Well, I don't
that,
care if
but
it's
yeah.
the playoffs or not, but I don't, because he didn't play as many games as like Kenneth Walker, I just don't care.
Brock Purdy, Kenneth Walker, Garrett Wilson.
I care, and I think and hope it will be Wilson. I would have gone Wilson or Olave. I mean, to me, they were better at their position even too than Purdy, and they played the whole season.
I
I'd
just
give
so
it to
strongly
Wilson.
disagree, but I get where people
I mean,
are coming from
he
the other
played
side.
like 33% of the season.
Right, that's not enough for me. I'm with you.
That seems a problem. That's all. And,
Not to me.
well, that's where we disagree.
I know, and guess
That's
what?
Fine.
I don't
And
have,
not to
I
a-
don't have a vote, so it
Well,
doesn't
not
matter.
to a
but, like,
significant amount of voters. For him to be one of the 3 finalists, we know essentially he got votes, so he's
I think
in that top
it is
3.
like the best story happening. Like Garrett Wilson is fantastic, but there is no Garrett Wilson story to this season.
At the other awards, you can vote
Says you.
top 3.
Well, that's your
not top
opinion.
5.
AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sauce. Aiden Hutchinson, Tariq Woolen. If Sauce is a first-team All-Pro cornerback,
He has got to win
Hamana.
this. He's
I'll
gotta
be
win
very annoyed if Hutchinson wins this, which I feel like there's a bigger chance than people
because
think.
he had 3 interceptions.
Just because like he's a bigger profile, but
like-
I think Sauce will probably do it.
Sauce better win that. Was Hutch an All-Pro?
No.
Yeah, that,
I don't
that's
think
an
he got
that's
any
Sauce.
votes.
Wait,
That's
by your own
Sauce.
logic, Greg, if Sauce was the first-team All-Pro,
Well, I get it, but they're not like competing against each other. I'm with you. I hope and
Yeah.
and I think that he will.
AP Comeback Player of the Year, another good competition this year. You got Saquads, who, by the way, Saquads, we got together with Lakeisha last Thursday, and she shared that, our old friend Austin Knobloch. Remember Nobby?
Yeah.
We saw Nabi.
Yeah.
Love Nobby.
LA
Nobby,
Times.
now with the LA Times, killing it over there. Used to be work on the desk, running the show for NFL Digital on the .com side. I learned that it was Austin Knobloch that coined Saquads. He created the nickname Saquads.
Wow.
He's an influential man.
Or is it Saquad?
I mean,
I think Saquad.
I'm
makes
not
more
saying
sense.
that's the first thing he'll be known for the rest of his life, but it's in the mix.
I mean,
Put
it's
that on
pretty
his
good.
Twitter profile.
Remember, his wife would bake incredible baked goods, and he'd bring them and distribute the baked goods around the office.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. He brought something in last week. All right, Christian McCaffrey, Niners running back, and Geno Smith.
Give me a break. If it's not Geno, what are we doing?
Comeback Player of the Year. I think Saquon ripping up his knees.
He belongs in this category.
What is a Comeback Player of the Year? is
I
the
think it's
question.
something different, obviously, every year. Blah, yeah, we get it with Phillip Rivers. But Geno Smith is something
It's nebulous.
that's not happened in the entire time we've done this podcast. A player that literally his career was a laughing stock content for everyone, and then he turns around and like blows everyone's metrics up and becomes one of the most valuable players in the entire league. And they were
I think he's
laughing
the
at the
best
whole.
story,
We were
so I
laughing
think
at the
he'll
whole
win it.
thing. Yeah, I think part of it's story.
It is nebulous.
Compelling, Mark, but I believe it is Saquon Barkley.
Oh, he still holds
pretty
that
similar to-
anti-Geno
Petty.
agenda.
I'm kind of surprised that you if you actually think that. That's how this will. Whether you think he's even the
I'm
actual.
just messing around.
All right, I was gonna say because this is story driven.
It's getting you fired up. So
A lot of these awards to me feel completely.
no, Geno is
absurd.
more than deserving of it. Yes.
Pretty similar to Tannehill, but Geno Smith's career was even more dead and gone, I think.
I mean, but Tannehill continued to be a starter and flounder.
He was a joke, Geno.
and then
he was a joke.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
like-
well, just the sense that like he got benched and Miami didn't want him, and everyone thought like he's gonna go be a career backup.
And did Tannehill win the award?
He did win
Yeah,
the
he
award.
did.
Okay.
Geno not only was a
Geno's like that
punchline, he
times
also
10.
got punched.
he did. MK or what is those? MK Impala or whatever.
MK and Polly.
Yeah.
And he's back. Finally, Coach of the Year, Brian Dable, Sean McDermott, Doug Peterson, Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sirianni. My vote is for Mr. Dable. How about you guys? Good one, though. Good category.
I think that's who will get it.
I think that's very story-driven, too. He totally fits. I think he completely changed the Giants.
All right, take the story, whatever that means, out of it.
Because you know what? Because
who
for me,
deserves
I think this is a kind of thing where, like, in the years of old, like, why wasn't Bill Belichick just winning it every year?
Right, but who's
like,
your pick?
Kyle Shanahan, because he find another guy on this list who would be on this list.
Has as much talent on his roster? I can't.
With a second quarterback goes down, first quarterback goes down, your second quarterback goes down, and then your rookie of the year, in my book, Brock Purdy comes in, and he's rookie of the year because of Kyle Shanahan. Because
I think I know who you're picking in the NFC title game.
Well, that shouldn't be a surprise. But I think Kyle Shanahan has gone through as much adversity.
He's a great
at the
coach.
Most important
He's a great
position.
I'd probably go Dable.
But Dable, the Giants could have easily been a 4-13 team under different leadership.
Yeah, I think.
And I think they were last year under Joe Judge.
I'm with you though, Mark. If I was like ranking them, I might have Sirianni second, and I think he hasn't gotten a lot.
By the way, where
Sirianni gets overlooked? He really
where's
does.
Dan Campbell?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got. I mean,
Where's Pete Carroll?
you're right.
I would put those guys over Sirianni and Shanahan.
Or well, what about like
And
over
McDermott.
Yeah, Sean McDermott is like
Yeah.
sort of just doing what we thought he'd do. But that again, I
that
think
one
that
doesn't make.
If you have a great loaded roster, I ding you in this category. Give me the guys that make the most of a team people didn't really see as
well, Doug
relevant.
Peterson is a perfect fit to
You
be in
could-
this category.
I would be totally fine with that as well. All right. Oh, Mark, this one's for you. Last one. Assistant Coach of the Year. Ben Johnson. So it's just like, I mean, you don't give Dan Campbell a nomination, but you give his OC one. Who's deserving? Ben did a great job over there.
Right.
D'Amico Ryans, who absolutely feels like he's going to win. This feels like it's D'Amico Ryans' season. And Shane Steichen, Eagles OC. I feel like this is D'Amico's award. But.
Yeah, I think D'Amico will win. I think I have no problem with that at all. Ben Johnson, I kind of like when you're a guy that no one knew who you were a year ago, and then you completely changed the arc of your career because of what you accomplished. And the Lions have been unwatchable, and anyone that made the Lions watchable, Dan Campbell included, needs to be on lists like this.
You know what's kind of funny about Ben Johnson? When Colleen and I did the Hard Knocks podcast, it was a running joke in the last 3 or 4 episodes that they only talked about Deuce Staley, who was the assistant coach and I think running backs coach. We never even saw who is the offense coordinator. We were looking it up, and we were like, we need Ben Johnson to be on the radar for this show. Eventually, he did show up here and there, but then became this like guy that is getting a ton of love and pop. Has he been getting interviews?
Yes.
He got one
Big chair interviews?
with Carolina, and he then withdrew his name, I believe, but almost immediately before they even went through the process and said he wanted to stay in Detroit. But he did talk to a couple teams, I think, on Zoom.
I think that's so – well, 2 things can happen. One, the Lions can go in the tank and suddenly no one's interviewing Ben Johnson again. But if you kind of view that you aren't ready yet to be a head coach, I think that takes some self-control.
Or you don't like
self-awareness.
If the teams that are even expressing interest in you, if you're not really into those spots, I get that.
Yeah.
You can look at it.
Man, you're a genius.
All right, let's – was that? Oh, who was it? Was that Goff?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Talking about Ben. Yeah, we were super
Man,
plugged
you're a
in
genius.
on Ben Johnson getting more pop on that show, and now he is getting pop. Congrats to all the nominees, and yes, check out NFL Honors the Thursday before the Super Bowl for blah, 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 blah. All right, let's take a break, and we'll hit the NFC title game. All right, welcome back. Let's do it. NFC Championship game, the 49ers. When is the last? Greg's just pounding the table like a caveman. I like it. The guy loves
It's the game we wanted. This is a great little
ball.
matchup, these 2 games.
The San Francisco 49ers have not lost since, let's see, oh my God, October 23rd, 2022. And yet they are the underdog when they step on the field at the Link to face the Eagles, who Greggy were looking mighty against the Giants. Is there a chance in your mind, I'll get into it this way, that as dominant as the Eagles looked, there was a tiny bit of fool's gold because of the Giants being an overmatched faux contender at that stage of the playoffs, and it will never be that easy again? Or are the Eagles so good they are going to steamroll their next opponent as well?
No, I don't think they're going to steamroll anyone. I think it was fool's gold. I don't think they're going to be overconfident because of it.
Can I just say one thing? I don't mean fool's gold as in the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles are actually good. I just mean the fact that they looked like they were playing a Pop Warner
like
team.
a heightened performance.
Like, are they, not at that
Makes
quite
sense.
that level?
Right. I look at them and they had that same score against the Vikings in the NFC Championship on their way to a Super Bowl. But to me, this will be much more like that Falcons game where they had to scratch and claw and barely win at the end if they can win. I don't know how anyone, and you and Nick might be right. Maybe the Bengals win going away. You guys seem very confident in that. I have a hard time being confident in any result this weekend because I just think both these teams are awesome. Picking against a team as talented as San Francisco is tough. That hasn't lost in that long is tough. So when it's such a close matchup, I do think about the small margins. And I do think that's where Philadelphia can win this game. 4 things, very quick. Aggressiveness, like going for it on 4th down and getting it. I think the Eagles are the more likely team to do that. Short yardage situation, which you're in 4th down. Eagles, one of the best teams practically ever in that situation. 49ers actually not that great in short yardage on either side of the ball this season. Wasting timeouts and handing the clock management situation. I think Philadelphia's a little tighter in that. 49ers really waste a lot of timeouts. And then red zone, you look at the Eagles, they've been a great red zone team this year. The 49ers not quite as much on either side of the ball. So just like the little game management, aggressiveness, coaching staff within the game might be the difference in a really tight game, but that's why I'm taking the Eagles. I took them to win the Super Bowl before the season. They've been my team. I'm not giving up on them now. Lock it up!
Man, you're
Why
right
wait till
today.
the
I
end?
love
Yeah,
it.
why wait for the end for that? Yeah.
Sell it.
I love it.
Howie mother.
Yes, I love the Eagles this week as well. And that's why with the lock competition, now I'm boxed in a corner a little bit. They do make sense to me as a team that will keep winning based on what we saw. How does it go sideways for the Eagle? How do the Niners find a way to beat this team that is so dominant in the trenches? It's a big test for your guy, Purdy, Marc, because I think the one thing that I took out of the win over the Cowboys is now that you got Brock Purdy against an elite defense, all of a sudden it's not so easy anymore. There aren't guys running wide open and free 5 yards away from the next defender. And to Purdy's credit, he has been tremendous this year as a ball distributor, getting the ball out quickly, making the right reads, avoiding mistakes. That is so remarkable, really, for a 7th-round pick that's a 3rd-string quarterback that entered the lineup in November or whatever. However, this is a different defense. It might even be better than the Dallas defense, and you have to contend with an absolutely ferocious pass rush that is going to speed up his clock and force him to make decisions quicker than he's had to make all season. And that's where I feel like they're most vulnerable. Not that Purdy's going to be exposed as a non-player or a guy that's not as good as people think. Just that this matchup might be too much for this kid right now.
Might be. I mean, I feel like we, understandably have been saying that progressively each week. Well, this is the week when they're going to figure out Brock Purdy. I think the thing is it's not all on Brock Purdy. Like, he's surrounded by so many weapons, and he's meshed with them so well. And that, I thought Dallas really tested him last week in that first half. He was uncomfortable. They disguised coverages. He fell for some of that and worked his way out because I think the team around him helps you work your way out. I think there are I love what you said, Gregg, about, the little ways that Philly can win, because I think Shanahan's still the guy that's going to kick a field goal when maybe you need to be doing something to be more aggressive, and that's sort of been his DNA.
He says he's not going to change. People kind of ask him
I don't think he
about that.
will. I think this is someone that's been bathed in football forever, and he's got a lot of his dad in him, but just who he is in general. There are little tiny areas because the Niners have had issues against running quarterbacks. They're 19th in the league. But they're really good against the run in general. They're giving up 77 yards a game. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher all year. And last week, I think the Eagles just match up so well against the Giants. And each time they played them, both lines were so physically dominant. This is a different situation here. You have got 2 of the best offensive lines in the league, 2 of the best, deepest defensive lines that can just put out rotations of players. And you're right about the Eagles' pass rush, but you got Trent Williams. This is not the Giants' situation this time around. And I kind of just trust the way that the Niners are coached to keep Brock Purdy safer than as someone like Daniel Jones was a week ago. The other thing is the Eagles' defense is phenomenal. They can get to the quarterback, but you can run on them. It's been a little bit better of late. I think that it's different when you've got guys like Linval Joseph, who's made a big difference against the run. I mean, their run defense has improved, but overall they're 21st. I go back to this game that feels like a total aberration, but that Commanders loss on Monday night, which was really weird, Washington just went at them and ran the ball 49 times. But they are stronger up front now, and they've got new guys there, Ndamukong Suh as well. So Jordan Davis is back. So I don't know if it's – I could see a defensive battle, which I would love in this. But I feel like you could make a Pro Bowl team out of these two rosters and go play anyone the AFC gives at you and probably win. Like, I can't remember two teams this stacked all over the place dealing with each other in the title game.
And you said, it's different with Trent Williams. And true, Trent Williams is the first team All-Pro, but you know who's second team All-Pro? Andrew Thomas, the left tackle of the Giants. And so it's not just about, like, that spot. It's that they have so many guys that they could just roll at you. And what did they lead the league in sacks by? Like 15 sacks or something like that?
Yeah, and it's
the
like
Eagles,
spread across the board.
It was just relentless across the entire season. And that, to me, like, yeah, it's not all about the quarterback. But what I saw from Jalen Hurts last week makes me think he's going to continue to be that dude. And I just think that's, if you really have to figure out, like, where's the mismatch here, I do think it is at QB more than anywhere else, at where Hurts playing at an MVP level this season and Purdy in a different place in his career.
I think the first quarter is huge. Both these teams are really good with the lead, especially the Eagles, because of what you mentioned, that the run defense probably is the weakest part of either team in this entire game. So, and the 49ers are built to go after it. And I am curious, are they going to use Jordan Davis? He kind of came in late last week. He's been injured. Yeah, Joseph and Sue have been okay, but they were on the street for a reason. So, like, if the Eagles can get a lead, then I feel like the difference in Purdy having to really step up could become something, and it might only take a turnover or two. But if the 49ers get the lead early or it's tight, like the Eagles haven't always been in those sort of games, and that is the type of game that I expect it to be.
What an incredible story it would be, by the way, if Purdy shreds the Eagles on Sunday.
We're in totally uncharted territory.
I mean, that would be a story.
I think he'll have opportunities because I think they'll be built to stop the run and see what Purdy can do, especially
he will be
on the outside.
story for 2 weeks leading to the Super Bowl. If he has a big NFC title game and he's 8-0 as a starter, everything that goes, even the hook of it all is Mr. Irrelevant. We are, and I think, like, Mark, I know you enough in terms of your football, like, watching, and as an analyst that you favor chaos and things that haven't happened before. And that's what Purdy is, obviously. This is an unprecedented situation. So that's fun, and I hope he does play well, because that's a great story. I want to know, like, is Christian McCaffrey healthy?
Yeah, that is huge.
You get a wrap on?
That's another big part of it. They say it's a contusion of his calf, but he wasn't getting vital touches in the final minutes of the divisional playoff game. I like Elijah Mitchell a lot, but is he banged up again too? I mean,
they both were out of practice and are expected to play, but I'm with you. There's a big difference on passing down.
And they did not run the ball well against the Cowboys. I think as a team, they averaged 3.5 yards a carry. You're going to need to give your rookie quarterback big-time support in the running game. Yeah, they had 32 carries for 113 yards.
They did get better as that game wore on. I think
Dallas.
that, and this is what, I don't know if you have this effect against the Eagles, but Dallas was winded by the end of that. I think that's the effect of this offense. It starts with their offensive line, and they weren't breaking out the huge breakaway runs with McCaffrey and stuff, which we've seen in other weeks, but they tired Dallas down by the end, and it opened things up for Purdy a little bit.
The other part is Dak peed down his leg last week.
Absolutely.
And there was a lot of bad possessions, and you're sending that defense back on the field. That's not how this Eagles offense. I know San Francisco's defense is also excellent. I think the Eagles are going to have long drives. I think they're going to be able to score points in this game, and I think that will help the defense from getting tired out and getting worn out as well.
Performance by Purdy I thought was better. Looking at it again, on the all-22 and stuff, like, there weren't really guys open. I think Dallas did an excellent job. They stopped the run. There weren't those plays where you just see, there was a couple, but where just like they make it real easy for Purdy. And actually, I thought he did a great job not forcing it. And he made a couple really good throws, but I think that was a game where he could have collapse because he avoided the big mistake. And I do worry just a little bit as someone who's picking the Eagles, clearly rooting for the Eagles, that like their coaching staff, Jonathan Gannon, who Nick Sirianni really defends, his coordinator, who the radio host, apparently Angelo's pissed off Nick with his derisive comments about Jonathan Gannon. I do worry a little bit, like, are they as flexible? Are they going to show as much different looks quarter to quarter, snap to snap? Like, they haven't been that team. They've played a lot of soft zone. Like, I do think sending some blitzes at Purdy could work. It absolutely worked for Dallas last week. And Quinn, I think, had an excellent game plan. Do I think the Eagles are as good, as complete? No. I just think they're like an incredible pass rush team, especially Reddick and Sweat. And that might be enough. Like Josh Sweat and Graham coming in as the third rusher, like those three alone might be enough to do it. But coaching-wise, I'm a little worried about the Shanahan versus Gannon matchup.
Well, I think it's like a huge, like Gannon can change what you think about him, but Nick Sirianni, too, has floated under the radar, like has to outduel Shanahan, which is probably a way bigger challenge than he's dealt with. That's not like dealing with, the half of the stuff he did in the regular season. Shanahan right now is on tilt. I mean, he's done such a good job scheming wideouts open for Brock Purdy.
Wait, tilt, though, it means you're struggling. It means
that's true. Like an old, like a
It's like when Gregg was going nuts earlier in the show.
Yeah, Greg was
going like look in his eyes.
I was trying to give you my machinations.
He's not on tilt
of what was happening. Yes,
but I mean,
finger looking good.
I thought that Purdy. That is a disgusting sound drop. I thought Purdy like he just seems mentally strong to me because like he could have crumbled last week. You're right, and there's been other situations like that, and he's well coached. But I think I think it's who he is, and like that's what everyone's saying about him, and like. You had 1 week where George Kittle led you in receiving. The next week it's Deebo Samuel. Then it's Brandon Ayuk, who's been playing out of his mind. It's like you can shut one of these guys down. Can you do it all across the board? I say you can't because I am so far out of the lock competition at this point that I've just been thrown out of a moving aircraft. So it doesn't really matter. But I'm locking up the Niners because I believe in them. And this is a team I want to see in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. I've become a fanboy of the Niners.
You are. You've always been a Shanahan fanboy. Yes. And Shanahan, by the way, has some ghosts to slay as well.
Yep.
They kind of gagged away a Super Bowl trip last year. Let's be real. Against the Rams.
Up 10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
you want to win that game.
Yep.
Shanahan is the OC that presided over 28-3 in the losing effort. I believe there was one other game. The Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Another significant lead late in that game. Shanahan let it get away. Does that make me nervous? Not really. But he does have kind of a bit of a sordid history in the playoffs. But the fact that he's also keeps popping up in these huge playoff games, Super Bowls, championship games, speaks to that he's a great coach. He is one of those 5 or 6 guys that are difference makers. And I have to play the game. There's the Zeuser, like who I think is going to win the game, and then there's the Zeuser who does not want to give the trophy to
That
Gregg.
Feels like the ultimate mirror test.
I don't care.
It doesn't matter
Greg,
in this case.
I don't care what your opinion on this is. It doesn't matter.
I know, but you were the first person who put the mirror test out there, right?
I got your mirror right here.
Why is a mirror involved here?
Well, I'm saying if you're picking a game that you don't believe in, that feels
I didn't
like
say I
looking
don't
in the mirror.
believe in it.
I'm saying
there's strategy. This is a game, Greg. And the game is now I have to come get you. I will lock up the Niners. Because there is a path. They're the Niners. They haven't lost since October 23rd. Purdy has been a revelation, and they have guys like Deebo Samuel, like Brandon Ayuk, like Trent Williams. There are superstars.
Fred Warner.
Hufanga, my guy.
Yeah. Had a great game last week.
Bosa. There's stars. Fred Warner. There's stars all over the place, and it is certainly within the realm of possibilities that the Niners deliver a big-time effort with their all-star team. So that's how I get within one game of Greggy heading into Super Bowl Sunday.
And we are. This is it. The energy.
Big Lock Brothers.
It feels like a different Lock Brothers energy. But I'm just there to support you, Dan.
I love you, buddy, and I promise you I will not be moving.
Greg. You as well, Greg, but in a different way.
In a way that isn't real.
Dan, you should mention to the listeners who we never actually said it on the pod last week. This is your second week in a row locking the Niners.
Okay. I did. I moved. Yes.
What a showman.
That was my move over. The showman. Why do you think we're having all this conversation? Because I didn't go down with the Giants, and I knew by pushing it to this week, the games would get a lot tighter, and it wouldn't feel like I was in a
but
desperate
you're just playing for a tie, and that would be annoying to tie. But I guess it's good I have a tie championship. But the tie ones are We probably need to revisit the rules in the offseason.
Let me simplify it for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather win outright or be in a tie?
Well, right. I would rather win outright, of course.
So this annoys you then more. That
Sure,
you'll potentially
absolutely.
tie.
If I were you go for the tie. It's just like, what does that even mean? A tie.
I'll tell you
we need to come up with a new game, I think.
You know this show well enough, and you know Dan well enough that by the time we get to May or June, that tie is tilted verbally in Dan's favor in every possible way. So it means a lot versus you winning outright.
Like I've said, the trophy is in my house. Am I going to give you the trophy if we tied?
No.
I don't
come over and visit you.
That part wouldn't annoy me
at all. You can come look at it anytime you want.
Keep it forever. I don't care about the trophy. It's just you want to win the thing.
The trophy is what matters. I will hand the trophy over gracefully on Sunday night.
Oh, wow.
On Sunday night if the Eagles triumph. It's very important to have a transfer of power that is respectful.
Well, it'd be dishonorable to keep it if you lose outright. So,
but if we go into Super Bowl Sunday with Gregg up 1, he'll feel the heat that I was on last year.
Yeah, well, no, you guys were tied, and that's almost better that way.
Well, you're going to feel that heat to put this thing away and find a way. And I'll be going off your pick again, just like I was last year. The pressure is all on you, is what I'm trying to say right now.
Well, it does help to know that I have no power over what's going to happen and that it's all luck if I get this right or wrong. If I win, I freely admit it's entirely luck.
No, you don't sell it that way, though. What is going on with this? Like,
I mean, in these games and in general.
You know what, Greg?
It's all luck.
I think
what
you
are we
think
doing
more
here,
about
Greg?
this than any person I've ever met in my life.
You still try to get it, but I think we can
Greg,
recognize
all 22 game study, all the reading that you do, all the different things that you do to be a more knowledgeable football analyst. It's kind of a weird
better
move
at picking games.
To say none of it matters at all.
In terms of picking games, I don't think it makes a significant difference. Certainly over picking a one game a week for a lot.
That's why you get moms who don't even watch winning football pools, because I think there's something to be said there.
Let's run it back.
I think it's for my mom.
Did you say that, or is that a drop?
That was a drop. I don't know what the reflection was.
Don't bring Deb into this.
Jalen Hurts is going to get it done.
Marc just said something about moms.
By the way, dads that don't watch football, I get it. Everyone, whoever doesn't watch football can win these football pools.
It's too late.
One little thing to keep an eye with Hurts, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Is I think he's matured a lot, and these linebackers who are so good for the 49ers to me are like their whole defense, but they're very aggressive. One thing Mahomes did great when he shredded them was he looked them off with his eyes throughout that game, and they almost teach that, like watching the quarterback's eyes. And to me, Hurts has matured so much. This game is on him. If he can be the passer inside the pocket and take advantage of those mismatches, he's got the two. I take Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown over Ayuk and Debo, especially in this matchup because the cornerbacks for the Eagles are better. I think this is a Hurts moment here. I think it's going to be up to him. If he plays as well as I think he can, they win. Otherwise, I think the 49ers are actually a little bit better of a team overall.
Yeah, I mean, I do care about the situation with Hurts' shoulder too. I mean, still the way he talks about it, he's like, I felt better, but we're going to have to go play the game.
He played so well, so that part
and he also
maybe on the ground.
They got to really shift that thing into cruise control for the last 2.5 quarters or 2 quarters. Like, it ain't going to be like way with San Francisco coming after him.
No.
But I guess if the shoulder was good on that first. What was that? The second play of the game? That beautiful throw down.
I don't think
field,
it's the throwing so much.
Okay,
I just more running. The Hurts the runner. If it's even making you think differently about what contact you. Because I think with Mahomes and Hurts, both of it is not where they are. It's like, do you re-aggravate that in the middle of a game? Then everything changes.
Nick Bosa trying to kill you for 3.5 hours. That would be a cause of consternation if I were Nick Sirianni. By the way, just so we have this buttoned up. What is your lock, Mr. Gravedigger?
So I've decided not to lock anymore this year. Not that anyone cares, but I
shut it down.
I prefer to finish the season at 10-10.
Oh, that's
versus,
good. That makes sense.
You Derek Carr yourself.
These are the 2 hardest weeks, I guess, of the season because there won't be any big spreads next week.
Derek Carr
didn't
didn't have the decision.
He was Derek Carr. He was Derek Carr by himself.
Oh, but he did excuse himself from the team. You're right.
But Derek Carr wanted to play. I'm saying that the authoritative part of him, Derek Carr, the rest of him.
Right.
Which makes no sense at all.
Let's check out the standings before Championship Sunday.
Do we need to?
Good season, by the way, Greg. 16-4. Dan Hanzus 14-6. Westboro. Well, we have words now. Westboro is so close. Gravedigger, great effort. Marc, pathetic.
Well, first of all, that's not even correctly slotted. I'm not in last place or anywhere near it. So I
think it's saying everyone's tied if you're not in the mix. So in that sense, it's just.
I really would genuinely at this stage, I want information, intel on who wrote that.
Justin,
because there will be a comeuppance.
A particularly large human.
That person will be punished.
How do you plan to beat up a man that's twice your height?
There are multiple ways to punish human individuals.
Little shots at the knees. You got to chop him down. Chop him down.
Does he stay up 24 hours a day? Do his eyes ever close?
Smart. I don't know if he does.
He's a giant. He needs rest.
I don't know if Drew sleeps. The jury's out on Drew doing human stuff like that. All right, welcome back. Make the Call presented by Verizon. Championship weekend. It comes down to this, Marc. Make the call on something.
Well, I'll make the call that in a couple weeks from now, the president will be making a call to Brock Purdy like they do when you win the Super Bowl, and it's going to start right here.
Do they?
And they used to, at least. I don't know, maybe they. Yeah, they do. I think typically.
They just go to Disneyland.
Probably depends on who the president is.
Just pick up that rotary phone in the locker room and here you are.
And you say, Brock Purdy, you've done a great job.
There might have been a Ronald Reagan call to Joe Montana in the 80s.
That happened back in the day.
Yeah.
It probably goes up and down. But I have total confidence that Brock Purdy, everyone waiting for the crumble job at some point here, is going to show up in this game against the Eagles. And like he did last week in Dallas, it might not be pretty out of the gate, but he's going to do something down the stretch that puts his name on this game entirely. He's got too many weapons around him. He works with them so well. He's as well coached as any quarterback in the league because of Kyle Shanahan, and he's not going to fade in this moment.
We did some math a couple minutes ago and did figure out that Brock Purdy very likely, or not likely, but could be Marc's father, age-wise.
Age-wise, not
the glowing positivity, or son, yes.
Yeah, a lot of things would have had to go differently for that to be true.
So, can you confirm that you are not his father?
I cannot, but I don't. But that's not.
Where were you in Arizona in 1999?
I wasn't. I was close by
I
in Colorado.
am attempting to.
I'm going to make a call that
Why are we?
Purdy does have a crumble job. Crumble. No.
What is a crumble job?
I don't know. I had to bring it back.
Fall apart.
Crumble job. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to contribute to that crumble job. I'm saying he's making a big-time play. I love this trade that the Eagles made. He's going to be the one covering George Kittle. One thing they did in the last two games for Philadelphia was they moved Gardner-Johnson from that safety spot back to the slot where he played in New Orleans, where you traditionally have that tight end. And I think he steps up, makes a big play, and makes that Purdy cookie crumble.
I like it. That's going to be a fun game. But my crumble job is on the other side. Because you know what's gonna have a crumble job? The idea that Patrick Mahomes rules the AFC at quarterback, because Joe Burrow is Operation Crumble Job at Arrowhead Field.
You were on this beat.
Burrowhead.
Joe Burrow will absolutely outduel a banged-up Patrick Mahomes. And it won't even matter. It's not about Patrick Mahomes' ankle. It's about that this is Joe Burrow's time, and Cincinnati will continue to score at will. The Chiefs will not be able to keep up, and they will win by multiple scores, Cincinnati, to go back to the Super Bowl for the second year. I make the call that it's Joe Burrow's league, both on Sunday and after Super Bowl Sunday.
You have gone strong on this show with the Bengals, and I think it's one of the more intriguing elements of this episode because you aren't backing down on it, and I like it.
Yeah.
Except he picked against them last week.
No.
That was for theater reasons.
They crossed the threshold into a new world now, the Bengals.
I've said on this show that Joe Burrow is my favorite player in the league. Been saying it all season.
I do worry that the cognoscenti, when we all are on one side and it's doubting Patrick Mahomes, that makes me nervous. I'm on the side, too. I'm with you. I think the Bengals are going to win.
Okay. We shall see. That was Make the Call, presented by Verizon, and this has been the Around the NFL podcast, the television version. I enjoyed it. Did you?
It was fun.
Great time.
Enjoy the football championship weekend. Oh, my goodness. Heed the call.